Hello friends, welcome to a new chapter today. In this chapter, let us now learn about a new drugs which are important in new disorder, which are called as anti-Parkinsonian drugs. See, these anti-Parkinsonian drugs are first you should know why is Parkinson's disease seen, right? Before we go into the drugs. So Parkinson's disease is mainly occurs due to it occurs due to deficiency of dopamine. Okay, whenever there is deficiency of enzyme or decreased dopamine in the nigrostriatal pathway, this leads to Parkinson's disease, where the patient manifests as mask-like faces, bradykinesia, tremors, which are seen. Okay, now let us now learn about the drugs which help in treatment of Parkinson's disease. So before we go into the drugs, first we will see their mechanism of action. So before that, you should know about the production and metabolism of dopamine that is happening in our body. So dopamine is actually produced from an amino acid which is tyrosine. This tyrosine, in the presence of L-dopa, it gets converted to tyrosine gets converted to L-dopa in the presence of tyrosine hydroxylase. This L-dopa, in the presence of dopa carboxylase, it gets converted to dopamine. This dopamine will now enter the synaptic vesicle. Okay, so these vesicles, through exocytosis, the neurotransmitter dopamine is released into the synapse. Once it is released into the synapse, it acts on its receptors, DA1, DA2 and DA3 receptors. DA1 receptor, dopamine acts on DA1 receptor. It also acts on alpha 1 receptor. Okay, so and also beta receptors. So once it has done its action, it starts to degrade. So this dopamine degrades by two enzymes. One is COMT, which is called as catechol O methyl transferase. The second enzyme is MAOB, which is monoamine oxidase B enzyme. So both these will degrade dopamine so that the degraded products can be used back in the synthesis of dopamine, or they are excreted. Okay, so the drugs which are used here are mainly target to increase this dopamine levels, right? So the first drug is levodopa. Levodopa is nothing but an analog of dopamine. Okay, second, peripheral dopamine decarboxylase inhibitors. So these will inhibit this conversion of dopa to dopamine in the peripheral cells. See, what does this peripheral and central means? See, if you think, if this is the whole body volume, okay, we have mainly the brain, okay, and all the spinal cord. Here there is blood brain barrier. Here this is blood brain barrier. Okay, this is brain. This is rest of the body. Okay, so what happens in this situation is, we have dopamine. We have given dopamine from outside. Once you are given dopamine, this dopamine will have to cross the blood brain barrier, enter the brain, and here it should act his function, right? This levodopa which is given, it gets converted to dopamine, active form of dopamine. Okay, this conversion of levodopa to dopamine can occur either in this peripheral tissues. This conversion can either occur in this peripheral tissues, it can occur, or it can also occur, this conversion can also occur in the brain. Okay, but imagine if this conversion occurs here, so as a result, here 99% of dopamine is used in the body and only 1% enters the brain tissue. Okay, so in order to prevent, so as a result, you have to give, your drug is not going to its target site where it is intended to be. It is just getting converted outside and thus resulting in many side effects. This dopamine in the peripherally, it causes many side effects. So as a result, to stop this, we have given this peripheral dopamine decarboxylase inhibitors. So these will inhibit this conversion of levodopa to dopamine. So outside the brain. Once it enters the brain, these drugs cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. So as a result, these do not have action in the brain. Then the next group of drugs which we have is catechol O methyltransferase inhibitors. So dopamine gets converted to 3-methoxytyramine by catechol O methyltransferase. So once you give inhibitors, these will inhibit this conversion. As a result, dopamine is increased. Then third, we have dopamine agonists, dopamine receptor agonists. These will activate the dopamine receptor directly. They will bypass all these pathway and directly activate dopamine receptor. Then we have monoamine oxidase B inhibitors. So these will inhibit monoamine oxidase B, and thus they will prevent the reuptake of dopamine. Okay, so this is about the main drugs which are used in anti-Parkinson's disease. In the Parkinson's disease, we have one more, which is glutamate antagonist or dopamine facilitator, which is nothing but amantadine. So first let us learn each of these drugs in detail. Okay, the first drug which we have to learn today is dopamine precursor. What is the dopamine precursor which is used? That is levodopa. This levodopa is actually an inactive form. So here levodopa is inactive form of dopamine. This levodopa, 99% of this levodopa gets converted to dopamine peripherally, whereas only 1% enters the brain. So this levodopa gets converted to dopamine in the presence of this dopamine decarboxylase. For this dopamine decarboxylase, pyridoxine, which is an vitamin, is required. So the dopamine precursor levodopa is absorbed by active transport process for aromatic amino acid. Okay, let us learn about the pharmacological actions of levodopa. So the pharmacological actions of levodopa include, the first is on CNS. On CNS, it improves the Parkinsonian symptoms. The first symptom to get resolved due to levodopa is hypokinesia, followed by rigidity, followed by tremors, and after tremors the secondary symptoms like posture, gait, handwriting or speech, facial expression, mood, self-interest, all these are resolved later. Then we have sexual activity also increases due to levodopa. There is general alerting response also occurs due to levodopa, which include excitement and frank psychosis. Then in the CVS, the next is CVS. So if you see CVS, dopamine directly that gets converted, levodopa peripherally it gets converted to dopamine. Because levodopa gets converted to dopamine peripherally, this will activate the beta receptors and thus results in a side effect, which is tachycardia. Why is this tachycardia? Because of beta receptor activation. Whereas the BP is completely normal, but sometimes there can be postural hypotension. Then second is this dopamine activates this CTZ. What is CTZ? Chemotactic trigger zone. Because once it is activated peripherally, there is increased side effects of nausea and vomiting are seen with levodopa. Then dopamine will also have actions on pituitary mammotropes, and they increase the prolactin. Normally dopamine have actions of pituitary mammotropes and inhibit the prolactin release, okay, which is evident in patients. They will also act on somatotropes, that is growth hormone cells, and activate growth hormone secretion, but this is not seen or manifested in the patients normally. Then now once we have learnt about the actions, let us now learn about the side effects of this levodopa. The side effects include, they are divided into two types. One, those side effects which occur at the initiation of therapy. Second, those side effects which occur at the prolongation of therapy. Most of them I have already dealt with them. Just see. Levodopa activates the chemoreceptor trigger zone, which is present peripherally, and this will cause nausea and vomiting. This levodopa also activates D1 cells, and it causes postural hypotension and dizziness. Okay, this will also activate beta cells and causes cardiac arrhythmias, and it also causes angina. These levodopa also activates alpha-1 receptors. Normally alpha-1 causes vasoconstriction, so because of vasoconstriction it has resulted in hypertension. So these are the drugs these are the actions which occur due to peripheral action of levodopa. This peripheral action of levodopa can be resolved by using, there is one treatment for this, that is, this can be resolved on by using carbidopa. Okay, then what are the drugs that what are the side effects which occur on prolongation of therapy? On prolongation of therapy, there is increased dopamine in the brain, thus results in abnormal movements like dyskinesia, which include facial tics, grimacing, tongue thrusting, chorioethioid movements. Dyskinesia includes facial tics, grimacing, tongue thrusting and chorioethioid movements. There will be behavioral effects also which are seen, which include mild anxiety, mania, hallucinations, mental confusion and frank psychosis are seen due to prolongation of therapy. Then there are other side effects. One of it is called as wearing off effect. What does wearing off effect occurs? This occurs when there is decrease in plasma levels of levodopa. See, in this graph there is increase in plasma levels of levodopa. It reaches a peak, and once its action is over, this dosage decreases. Okay, once there is decrease plasma levels of levodopa, there is recurrence of symptoms occurs. That is called as wearing off effect. Wearing off effect is the drug's effect has been lost, and as a result the symptoms have appeared once again. There is second side effect which is called as on-off phenomenon. So what do you see in on-off phenomenon? This is unpredictable fluctuation between mobility and immobility is on-off phenomenon. That means, for example, if you give levodopa, okay, the levodopa concentration in the blood increases and it has reached the maximum. Now all the symptoms of Parkinsonism like mask-like faces, rigidity, bradykinesia, okay, slow movements, all those are now resolved and he is fine. After some time, that is on effect. Okay, but after some time, if you see, once the the drug concentration in the blood wears off, it decreases, then you see the symptoms of Parkinsonism to come back again. And secondly, during this levodopa period, when the Parkinsonian symptoms are decreased, during that period there is increased incidence or there is reappearance of dystonia symptoms like disabled mobility or tremors. All these will reappear, and as a result that is on phenomenon, and whenever the drug is not there, then drug has been plasma concentration of drug decreases, then obviously the Parkinsonian symptoms return back leading to off effect. So in order to, that is called as fluctuation between mobility, that is during levodopa therapy, and immobility, that is when the wearing off of levodopa therapy occurs. Okay, so this levodopa has shorter half-life, so here you will have to add in order to prevent this on and off phenomenon, the treatment is to add catechol O methyl transferase inhibitors, which include entacapone and tolcapone. The next side effect is dyskinesia. This dyskinesia occurs due to increased dopamine levels. The next side effect is punding. What is punding? Punding is purposeless. Punding is purposeless stereotyped behaviors, that is lining up of object, is called as punding. Then we have impulse control disorders can also occur due to these drugs, that is levodopa. So impulse control behavior include compulsive behavior, gambling, hypersensuality and distractive behaviors are seen. Okay, then if you see in the eye, they cause mydriasis and thus precipitates glaucoma. So these are contraindicated in glaucoma. So now you will have to learn about the contraindications of dopamine. The contraindications of dopamine mainly include, you have, the patient might develop malignant melanoma, because if you see, this levodopa is a precursor of melanin, and as a result it can result in malignant melanoma. Then it can cause angle closure glaucoma, because in this levodopa causes mydriasis in the eye, and thus it can cause angle closure glaucoma, so it is contraindicated in angle closure glaucoma. It is also contraindicated in psychosis and cardiovascular diseases. But there is these are cautiously used in peptic ulcer disease, because there is increased risk of bleeding or gout and hepatic, renal and central nervous system or CNS diseases. Then whenever you do abrupt withdrawal of levodopa therapy, if by mistake or in any way, if you withdraw the levodopa therapy abruptly, this will lead to neuroleptic malignant syndrome. Abrupt withdrawal of levodopa therapy leads to abrupt withdrawal of levodopa therapy leads to neuroleptic malignant syndrome. Okay, next, there is something called as levodopa induced psychosis. The drug of choice for levodopa induced psychosis is atypical antipsychotics, which can be quetiapine and olanzapine can be given. If Parkinsonism is associated with psychosis, if Parkinsonism and psychosis both these occur together, then you should give acetylcholine blockers like benzhexol can be added to the treatment. Interaction. This levodopa can interact with non-selective monoamine oxidase inhibitors, and they cause hypertensive crisis, hyperpyrexia. This levodopa, if it gets converted to with pyridoxine, combined with pyridoxine is essential for peripheral decarboxylation, and has a result because of presence of activator, there is increased peripheral decarboxylation which is occurring if levodopa is given along with pyridoxine. Okay, the second group of drugs which are important here are peripheral decarboxylase inhibitors. What are the drugs which are peripheral decarboxylase inhibitors? They are carbidopa and benzeraside. These carbidopa and benzeraside will inhibit the conversion of levodopa to dopamine peripherally, so that the levodopa can enter the blood-brain barrier, and in the brain it can get converted to dopamine. This levodopa and benzeraside cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. So what are the advantages? This will cause decrease in peripheral side effects. This causes decrease in cardiac side effects. It also causes decrease in on and off effect, and it causes decrease in dose reduction by 75%. What are the problems which are not resolved? Involuntary movements are not resolved, behavioral abnormalities are not resolved, excessive daytime sleepiness are not resolved. Which are not resolved? Behavioral abnormalities, involuntary movements, behavioral abnormalities, and excessive daytime sleepiness are not resolved. Then next is dopamine receptor agonists. So what are the drugs which are used in dopamine receptor agonists? These dopamine receptor agonists are actually preferred in younger age group patients with Parkinson's disease. Advantages are these dopamine receptor agonists do not require any metabolic conversion. These are not dependent on functional integrity of dopamine neuron. Okay, they do not require metabolic conversion. They are not dependent on functional integrity of dopamine neuron. They have longer duration of action, and lesser free radical damage is seen with dopamine receptor agonist drugs. So what are the drugs which are used as dopamine agonists? These include two types. One, we have ergot alkaloids which are used as dopamine agonists. Second, we have non-ergot drugs which are used as dopamine agonists. So ergot drugs include bromocriptine, cabergoline and pergolide, whereas non-ergot drugs include pamipexole, ropinirole, rotigotine and apomorphine are the non-ergot dopamine receptor agonistic drugs. Then we have side effects. First we will see ergot derivatives. So in the ergot derivatives, the first drug is bromocriptine. Okay, the drug is ergot derivatives. In the ergot derivatives, the first drug which you see is bromocriptine. This bromocriptine is a potent D2 agonist. Okay, because it is a potent D2 agonist, it is a potent D2 agonist, and it is also a partial D1 agonist or antagonist. This bromocriptine is a potent D2 agonist and partial D1 agonist or antagonist. What are the pharmacokinetics of this drug? Pharmacokinetics is this is given orally. The side effects include most common side effects include nausea, vomiting, vertigo. The most common side effects are GI side effects like nausea, vomiting, CNS side effects like vertigo, and they can cause postural hypotension. See, important side effect is formation of gangrene because it is ergot derivatives. These causes digital vasoconstriction or vasospasm leading to gangrene formation. These also causes nasal stiffness, conjunctivitis and fibrotic reaction. This fibrotic reaction is seen in mainly fibrosis is seen in pleural and retroperitoneal fibrosis. This fibrotic reaction is most commonly seen in pleural and retroperitoneal fibrosis. Then you will also see erythromelalgia in these individuals. What is this erythromelalgia? Erythromelalgia is reddish, tender, painful joints are seen. Okay, so these are the side effects of ergot derivatives. What are they? Nausea, vomiting, vertigo, postural hypotension, digital vasospasm leading to gangrene, nasal stiffness, conjunctivitis, fibrotic reaction, that is mainly pleural and retroperitoneal fibrosis, erythromelalgia, that is reddish, tender, painful, swollen joints development. Use is improves on and off effect, and it can also be used in hyperprolactinemia. Nowadays we are not using these ergot derivatives because these are now replaced by non-ergot derivatives. Now, what are the non-ergot derivatives? There are four main drugs which are non-ergot derivatives. These non-ergot derivatives mainly include ropinirole, pramipexole. Okay, these include ropinirole, pramipexole. Okay, the next drugs are in the next page. Okay, first ropinirole and pramipexole. The first is ropinirole. Ropinirole is D2 D3 agonist, whereas pramipexole is mainly D1 agonist. Among this ropinirole and pramipexole is the first line choice, which is important in this ergot, non-ergot derivatives, and in Parkinson's disease this is the first line drug. First choice of dopamine receptor agonists is pramipexole. Then we have it is long acting and there is no gangrene formation. The plus point here is there is no gangrene formation and there is long acting also. There are decreased dyskinesia and decreased motor fluctuations are also seen associated with these non-ergot derivatives. What is majorly important is the pharmacokinetics and side effects. If you see the pharmacokinetics, one important thing that you should definitely remember is its metabolism with CYP enzyme. So these non-ergot derivatives are metabolized by CYP enzymes, and that is the reason why they have interactions. Okay, their use is in Parkinson's disease, where you can use it as monotherapy. The side effects include they can cause somnolence, hallucination, and compulsive behaviors can be seen with these non-ergot derivatives. The next drug, see what are the other uses. If you see the ropinirole can also be used in restless leg syndrome and it is metabolized in liver. If you see pramipexole is excreted in kidney. So these are the main types of non-ergot derivatives, which include ropinirole and pramipexole. Then we have two more, which is one we have pergolide, apomorphine and rotigotine. These are also non-ergot dopamine receptor agonists. This pergolide has main side effect, which is valvular heart disease. But this pergolide is an ergot derivative. Remember, it is an ergot derivative and it has valvular heart disease as side effect. Then rotigotine. The advantage of rotigotine is it is available as transdermal patch, but this has been discontinued because there is evidence of crystal formation has been reported on transdermal patch. So the side effect of rotigotine is crystal formation on transdermal patch. Then the next drug is apomorphine. This apomorphine can be used subcutaneously. Because the rotigotine has been failed, then apomorphine has been developed, which can be used subcutaneously for temporary relief of on and off period. The side effect is nausea. Okay. Then the next group of drugs which are important here are monoamine oxidase B inhibitors. These include selagelin or dephenyl and rasagelin. Okay. So why does this monoamine oxidase B inhibitors are useful? Because there is a hypothesis of Parkinsonism which states that these monoamine oxidase can also cause oxidative damage to dopamine, that is the environmental toxins. See, there is the cause of Parkinsonism can also be due to oxidation of dopamine or oxidation of environmental toxins by monoamine oxidase. Because of this oxidation, there is production of free radicals, and these free radicals are have resulted in destruction of brain, leading to Parkinsonism. This is just a hypothesis. So that is the reason why this monoamine oxidase B inhibitors have been formulated. There is one more role for this monoamine oxidase B inhibitors are they will prevent the dopamine degradation, and as a result they will increase the dopamine levels in our body. Okay. Next if you see, this is the same pathway which I have written in properly in tabular form, in chart form. So if you see levodopa, this can cross the blood brain barrier. Okay. Once it crosses the blood brain barrier and it has entered the brain, in the brain, with the help of dopamine decarboxylase, it gets converted to dopamine, and once it gets converted to dopamine, it has two pathways to occur, two fate. The dopamine has two fates. One, it can, in the presence of catechol O methyl transferase, it gets converted to 3-methoxytyramine. Okay. Second, dopamine in the presence of monoamine oxidase B, it gets converted to 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl acetic acid. Now this 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl acetic acid and 3-methoxytyramine, both these will get converted to homovanillic acid. Okay. So this is the pathway of dopamine. So at therapeutic doses, if you see, this selagelin, okay, will inhibit the monoamine oxidase B and thus increases dopamine and thus used in Parkinson's disease. But at higher doses, if you see, this selagelin will inhibit monoamine oxidase A, and because it inhibits monoamine oxidase A, if it is used along with tricyclic antidepressants, it causes serotonin syndrome, or if it is used along with tyramine foods, it causes hypertensive crisis and cheese reaction. So at therapeutic doses, it has good effect, that is it has good effect for decreasing the Parkinson's disease for curative form, but at higher doses it has side effect because it inhibits monoamine oxidase A also. So monoamine oxidase A is important for degradation of tyramine and foods, because this tyramine and foods are not degraded by monoamine oxidase A, and as a result they cause hypertensive crisis and cheese reaction. Then if you see in the pharmacokinetics, we have oral selagelin. Oral selagelin, in the presence of liver, it gets converted to amphetamine. This amphetamine causes insomnia and agitation. This oral selagelin, in the presence of liver, this gets converted to amphetamine. This amphetamine causes side effects like insomnia and agitation. So what are the side effects? Side effects are, you see, hypertension, hypertensive crisis, cheese reaction, serotonin syndrome, and insomnia and agitation are seen. Other side effects like postural hypotension is seen, and psychosis is also seen. This selagelin is contraindicated in epilepsy. This is very important. Remember, it is contraindicated in epilepsy. There are some interactions. See, this selagelin will also convert pithidine to norpithidine. Once it converts pithidine to norpithidine, it causes this side effects like excitement, rigidity, hyperthermia, respiratory depression. So this is about the siligilin or defrenil, which is monoamine oxidase B inhibitor. Okay, next drug. The next drug are monoamine oxidase B inhibitors. Two more drugs are there, which are rasagiline and safinamide. So if you see rafagelin, this rafagelin is mainly most potent and it inhibits monoamine oxidase B irreversibly and thus decreases free radical damage. Then if you see safinamide, this safinamide is a newer drug which is used for off and on off periods. Then we have the next drugs, which are catechol O methyltransferase inhibitors. These catechol O methyltransferase inhibitors will inhibit the catechol O methyltransferase and thus inhibit the degradation of levodopa or degradation of dopamine. So if you see, levodopa peripherally is also converted or degraded in the presence of catechol O methyltransferase into 3-O-methyl-dopa. Okay, now this levodopa, after entering the blood-brain barrier, after crossing blood-brain barrier and entering the brain also, it gets converted to dopamine. This dopamine also is degraded by two ways. One, in the presence of catechol O methyltransferase, and the second pathway is in the presence of monoamine oxidase B. So these drugs will act on these catechol O methyltransferase. Okay, so these catechol O methyltransferase inhibitors will inhibit the catechol O methyltransferase. The drugs include tolcapone or entacapone. So if you see these tolcapone, entacapone, both these will have the peripheral action of inhibiting the catechol O methyltransferase in blood, whereas only tolcapone crosses the blood-brain barrier and it has central action, and as a result only tolcapone will inhibit the catechol O methyltransferase. Entacapone does not have any central action. Okay, now coming to the side effects. If you see side effects, the side effects include, you can see postural hypotension. It can cause postural hypotension or arrhythmias, and mainly it can cause yellowish orange discoloration of urine. It can cause yellowish orange discoloration of urine. Okay, the next type of drug, which is tolcapone. What is tolcapone? Tolcapone is long acting and more potent than entacapone. The side effect of tolcapone is hepatotoxicity and not used now because of this side effect. This tolcapone is longer acting and more potent. Though it is longer acting and more potent with this good effect, but still it is not used because of hepatotoxicity. There is decreased wearing time or increased on time and decreased off time. So this is about the catechol O methyltransferase inhibitors. The next group of drugs are glutamate antagonists or NMDA receptor antagonists or dopamine facilitator. So this mainly includes amantadine. Glutamine antagonist or NMDA receptor antagonist or dopamine facilitator, this mainly includes amantadine. What does this amantadine do? This amantadine activates dopamine release. It also inhibits dopamine reuptake, and thus these two at the end will increase the dopamine in the synaptic terminals. Okay, this will also inhibit NMDA receptor and thus has anti-dyskinetic property. This amantadine also have anticholinergic property. Right? What are the side effects? The side effects of these glutamate antagonists include, these causes confusion, hallucinations, ankle edema, libido reticularis and heart failure cells. These glutamate antagonists results in confusion, hallucination, ankle edema, libido reticularis and heart failure cells. Okay, what are the uses? Uses are, these are used in early stage Parkinsonism. In early stage Parkinson's disease, they can be used alone. But if it is late stage Parkinson's disease, they are used along with levodopa and carbidopa combined. Okay. Next, the next group of drugs are centrally acting Parkinson's disease. These centrally acting Parkinson's disease are mainly the used as drug of choice in drug-induced Parkinsonism. These include benztrophin, benzexol, biperidine, procyclidine, trihexyphenidyl, orphanidine. So what are the drugs which are used for drug-induced Parkinsonism? These are benztrophin, benzexol, biperidine, procyclidine, trihexyphenidyl, orphanidine. Okay, these are the centrally acting antipsychotics which are used in drug-induced Parkinsonism. So these have both the actions. These are used both for Parkinson's disease and psychosis also. Okay. Side effects of these are anticholinergic side effects like urinary retention, dry mouth and sedation are seen. Urinary retention, dry mouth and sedation are seen. Okay, you can also use the drugs like first generation antihistaminics like promethazine and diphenhydramine can also be used. The next disease is restless leg syndrome. In the restless leg syndrome, even here we prefer dopamine therapy. So in this we prefer pramipexole in the dosage of 0.25 to 0.75 milligrams, and we prefer ropinirole in the dosage of 0.25 to 0.5 milligrams. So in the restless leg syndrome, we can also use gabapentin or pregabalin. These both will decrease severity. We can also use clonazepam in the dosage of 0.25 to 0.5 milligrams. You can also use oxycodone. Okay, so oxycodone. So these are the drugs which are used in restless leg syndrome. Then this is about the Parkinson's disease and restless leg syndrome. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about lithium and mood disorder drugs. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.